All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. Today is Friday the 19th? 19th?
18th.
18th?
18th. Yep, just because my wife's birthday is on the 19th. So that is Saturday.
Birthday, Amanda.
Kudos to me for remembering the date.
Yeah. You say that, but like 5 minutes ago, you had to ask her how long you guys were dating before you got engaged.
Yeah, that's like 5-6 years ago. No. Now I got to think because we were engaged for like a year and a half before we got married.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a year and 2 months, I should say. Year and 2 months. So a year and a quarter.
We're coming up on, Lan and I are coming up on a year being engaged, and we don't even have like a date or anything set.
You'll get there.
We just like got engaged. We're like, yeah, cool. We'll just do this for a while.
Let's do this. Let's run this one back.
Yeah. It's nice for my wallet. No, I'm just kidding. That's messed up. But we're actually gonna start planning some stuff this weekend. Hopefully make some headway.
I'm calling BS on that.
Hey, we got Sunday carved out to get shit done. We'll see how much gets done.
That means long naps, a big lunch, and a few
Moe's. Yeah. That means a nap time, a Moe's, and Netflix.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so today is basically day 2 of the Bassmaster Elite Series at the Harris Chain. We got to Andy, you came over for a little bit. We watched a little bit of live coverage. RIPs in the chat for Scott Martin not landing half.
Trocar hooks is all I gotta say. Like,
yeah, dude, I'm with you.
I'm not bashing on Trocar hooks. It's just I feel like I've lost more fish than I have landed with those, and I have a very sad story. I was fishing in Derby probably like 8 or 9 years ago, and I like roof hooked a fish in the top of the mouth right in between, like near the pinchers. And when I hooked him, he came up spitting up blood, and literally before I could even put him in the live well, he was dead from a trocar hook going like through his brain. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Smoked him.
Yeah.
We are
flipping tube.
Yeah. This is not a trocar friendly podcast.
Yeah. They also rust out. You know when Andy with Matt the other day when he was talking about gammies, like I've never had gammies, like never any issues with gammies rusting out. I've only had trocar. I've had so many issues with trocars rusting out, unless it's the saltwater ones, I guess.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Yeah,
but it's not a anti-trocar thing. I think it's more of a anti-cutting point. I hate cutting point.
Yeah, I want something to be thin and a needle to go in.
Yeah, I want that needle blunt point. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. Whether it's thin wire or thick, which we're going to get into today because we're going to be talking about swim bait heads, some different jig heads that we incorporate into our arsenal. While it's majority of it's going to be like swim bait jig head heavy, we're also going to be talking about some different jig heads that aren't like a swim bait paddle tail oriented. Like we're going to talk about some Damiki heads, talk about some
100%
unique different jig heads that we incorporate into our arsenal. And we encourage those that are listening to this, especially on YouTube. But if you're also listening on MP3 to either comment in the YouTube or get in touch with us on social if there's something that you guys use in your arsenal that maybe we didn't touch on tonight.
And I'm always interested to try new jig heads.
100%. I had no idea we were live. I 100% did not realize. I thought we were still just talking. This is awesome. This is great. Nice. I was
round of applause.
Haley's getting a little more professional here. Why is he getting? Oh, there's a red logo up top that says live. Wow. Holy, it's been a long week.
It's one of those days, folks.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's not Friday yet for us, but it might as well be. Yeah. Deacon and I went at it in our little group chat today for like an hour and a half.
Kayaks versus boaters.
It was an interesting conversation that we really need to make into a podcast here soon.
It'd be some great content because kayak lives matter, and it was good.
Well, and you know the best part about that conversation is the majority of public conversations about that exact topic turn into like people like threatening to kill each other, and we're just having like legitimate conversation, like debate. And that's one thing I will say I appreciate about our conversations, Deacon, is like we may not agree on everything, but we can like not
have
be
a respectable debate.
Yeah, not be legit about it.
But I think there was a point in there that I was reading, and it's like I'm sorry, Bailey, but I respectfully disagree with your statement.
Yeah, the best part is Andy is just Andy was driving, and this like by the way, like ruined the end of my workday because I was grinding all day, getting a bunch of work done, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and debate some of the stuff that Bailey's throwing out in the chat.
Staples red debate button, just click.
That was easy.
Yeah, and then Andy just got a delayed hundreds of texts between Bailey and I shooting back and forth.
Oh, that's funny. Like we're listening to a song, and I'm like scooping my daughter, and she's like, "The song keeps dinging."
Like, whoops.
Oh, that's good. That's hilarious.
And like if my GPS is up and I get a text message, I can't see like the directional on my Apple Play. So like it just like messes everything up. It's so funny when I get text messages when they come in like in crazy vast amounts because there's like 4 big group chats I'm in, and they always go off at the same time. So like I just have a steady bar of like 4 different group chats that are coming through, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I need to turn this off somehow.
That was me on Saturday at the tournament on Toledo Bend. I'm sitting there, and it's so peaceful and quiet in the backwoods, and all I hear is from you in the fantasy chat of you guys talking about the elite tournament going on. And I'm sitting there, I'm like I'm getting like mad because I don't want to waste time like opening my phone and texting. So I put my bait down, I pick up like a drop shot, and I cast it, and I sit there and soak it. I pick up my phone, and I'm like, "You guys are killing me." Mute.
Yeah, I gotta silence them. Always fishing a derby. I can't. I'm with you.
I'm just, like this is it was just one of those days, but I have to give a quick shout out because I finally got Mega Live on the way. I got to give a big shout out to my buddy David Fluker, who actually met and like gave a couple reels to on the way down to Texas last week. And he basically said, I got Mega Live from this place called C&O Marine in Tennessee. And I was like, do you think there's any left? Because he found like a couple. And he goes, yeah, there probably is a couple. So I called this place. Literally, I didn't realize that they're about to close, like 2 minutes before close. And I was like, do you guys happen to have Humminbird Mega Live in stock still? And they're like, yeah, we got like 6 sitting on the shelf. And I was like, is there any way I can buy one now? Like, is it too late? They're like, no. And then they took my information, and I got Mega Live on the way. But right at that time, I get a notification from my buddy that gives me a call, and he's like, hey, we got Mega Live at the Bass Tank now. You've been asking for it. And he goes, buy it now while you can. So there is Mega Live at C&O Marine and also the Bass Tank. So for folks that are looking to get into it. And I had to give a quick shout out to C&O Marine because that was quick, easy, and flawless and very easy to work with. So
awesome.
Either way, a lot of forward-facing content coming.
It's official. Bailey has the most rigged out Hobie in the Northeast.
Gotta be.
I don't think so, actually. Now, there's a couple guys in the New York circuit that have live scope, trolling motor, 360, multiple graphs, and
on a Hobie.
On a Hobie.
Oh, because they got like a Torpedo, right?
No, they have an XI3, which is like the motor guide, kayak version, spot lock, all that.
Oh, is that the one that like goes off the bow?
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Interesting.
But it's like the remote, not the foot pedal. There's some crazy decked out kayaks, like insane stuff that like people see me with 2 graphs and a 360, and they're like, dang, that's a lot. But then you go to this Hobie tournament, and it's like, damn, some of the stuff people got is crazy. Like makes me look like a rookie. And I know this is exact conversation that Deacon and I were having earlier today. So before we go down that rabbit hole again,
context. Deacon and Bailey, I'll moderate here. Deacon and Bailey were civilly arguing about the cost of a brand new kayak rigged out with graphs to a used Legend bass boat from like 2008.
It went from like that debate to like is it easier to go from a kayak to a boat or a boat to a kayak? And then it went from, could I beat John Cruz in a race in a kayak? And then it was like, it was all over the place.
Best part of it.
But if John Cruz is listening to this, I challenge you to a 1v1 on a pedal on a kayak.
Here's the deal, John Cruz, you need to start training volume, man. I mean, if you're going to compete against Bailey in a kayak, I mean, listen, it's awesome to watch you deadlift 400 pounds and squat heavy, but we need some volume training because this guy is going to be running.
How many miles did you do at Toledo? 72?
I had at least, for a clock at a rough guesstimate, throughout the week, I had 72 miles. Which
is a lot.
Technically,
that's a lot of hamster wheel turning, bud.
Hamster wheel turning.
It's not even a wheel. It's not even going in a circle. It's back and forth.
Oh, that's the best part. That we it's hamster wheeling to us.
No, but I'm not even challenging Cruz to like a fish off because he would smoke me. I'm challenging him just to a race in a kayak. Just race.
Which is
That's
awesome.
it. Yeah.
I hope he shows up in his Bass Cat because that would be even fun.
That would be great. The new Puma STS.
Yeah.
You're on, Bailey.
Yeah. Yeah. But last thing on that before we get into the topic we're actually talking about today. Thank you to the folks that are sticking around for the 10 minutes or so that we're gibbering here. Is episode 1 of Chasing Hardware is in the works, being edited right now, and I'm hoping to have that done and uploaded next week, Wednesday night. Looking to do around 6-7 p.m. Eastern, but we'll let you guys know next week at live. Hopefully that it's edited and done by that time, and we'll give you guys a further update when that starts. But I appreciate everyone that's given good feedback in the trailer posts and all the stuff leading up to it for the support and the feedback, and I'm looking forward to that series. I'm pretty excited. But we'll dive more into the tournament at a later date, because right now we're talking about probably one of my most favorite ways to fish. And we're going to lead off with that is throwing finesse swim baits or just swim bait heads, and just in general, throwing a single swimmer is like my favorite way to catch them on a spinning rod or a bait caster. Something about getting that hard knock and you got to reel and catch and lean into them. That is some of my favorite bites, like in fishing at all, like in general. But we're going to start out with just some swim bait heads and just kind of work our way through our arsenal of things we use. But I kind of wanted to start it out like asking you guys, what times out of the year, if there's a time you don't have it rigged up, do you really have a strong emphasis of a swim bait on your deck? Not talking like big swim baits or anything like that, but like a 3 to 4 inch paddle tail, a single swimmer.
All year.
I like that answer. Deacon?
Mm-hmm.
Same?
Yeah, I mean, especially I think the one similarity here is that you guys live up north and are chasing smallmouth a lot. And here, these kind of deserty lakes and then even the Ozarky lakes, I mean, like a lot of clear water and same things apply. And especially with forward facing sonar, you can really pick fish off on a single swim bait. And, it's just an effective way to fish, I would say, year round. I think when I lean on it more is early in the year. And then kind of as we get, so let's say spring through kind of that beginning of post spawn. And then I probably lean away from it kind of the next fall. But I think there's reason to have it on your deck at all times. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. I mean, to me, it's my favorite search bait because I feel like regardless of time of year, if you find a group of fish, I mean, they're going to eat a swim bait, especially a small.
Not just bass too, like everything.
Yeah, everything. You'll find out real quick what that's going to be. Whether it's crappie, if it's walleye, whatever, they're going to eat.
40-inch tiger muskie.
Oh, yeah. It's just too natural, right? It's a baby shad or baby bait fish of some sort.
Yeah. So
you go learn today.
Here in New York, a lot of our lakes have aloe smelt or emerald shiners in them. So they're all they range from 2 to 6 to 8 inches. So you could really, depending on and gizzard shad, right? Depending on what lake you're on. So you can really chase, bass chase those things all year round. And you'll see them in the middle of nowhere blow up on a school of bait fish. You can just fire that little round ball head swim bait over there and probably catch one or two. Mm-hmm. If you get close enough to that pile where they're busting them up.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think what we'll do is to kind of kick this off is maybe we should start calling out just first to begin this conversation of like our favorite swim bait head, like one that we use predominantly the majority of the time when we are throwing a smaller paddle tail. Do you guys have one ready to kick it off?
I do. I got one here.
All right, let it rip.
All right. So this is probably the most used weight I use too. See if I can get this up here without seeing.
You can do it. I believe
that is a regular traditional ball head, right? That's all it is. There we go. There we go. All right. So that is a 3/16 ounce jig head, and that is a 3/0 hook in there. They make one in a 2/0 and they make one in a 3/0. I prefer the 3/0 on everything. Most of the time, I'm throwing a 3.3 inch swim bait, normally a Kitech for that matter. As well as I'll go down to a 2.8 and then up to like a 3.8. But as far as that ball head gets more use from me than anyone else, that's a Gamakatsu standard ball head jig. And that's all it is. It's your lead ball head jig. And I've had great success, especially on a spinning rod. It's a light wire hook, not something you want to use on like an A rig unless you are doing it in grass and have your drag set. But that is a great single swimmer hook.
So what's your, like, you said you can throw it on a spinning rod as well, but like, what's your typical setup for throwing a swim bait with that jig head?
I'll do it on both. I would say more of the time I'm throwing it on a spinning rod, and that's where I'll drop down to an 1/8 ounce as well. I like the 3/16 because I can cast it just a little bit further, and it's not super heavy to where it affects the action of the swim bait. The 3/16 is just like the perfect size to me. I will throw it on a casting rod as well, and a trick. I know we're talking swim baits here, but the same head works great for the old tried and true. And I don't do it as much as I used to, but I used to catch a lot of fish on a grub, and it works the same way on a dang ball head. And whether that's, and by the way, this is the same thing I use dragging them as well, but spinning rod setup, just a medium to a medium light fast action rod, pretty standard spinning rod, 7 foot, 7.2, something there. Is generally what I like. And then casting is a medium rod if I'm going to throw it on a casting rod.
I like it. And for folks, we're going to do our best to make sure if it's available, we're going to link everything we're talking about tonight back to Omnia Fishing, where you guys can, if you're interested in trying out any of the stuff we're talking about, where you guys can click on that link. And then you can also save yourself 50% off using code SERIOUS, all caps, just SERIOUS. But I am in complete agreement with the whole idea around a 3/0. I hate a 2/0 because I just feel like you don't have enough of a gap
between on a fat swim bait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like whether it's like high tech, whether it's like a rage swimmer, whether there's a bunch of good little paddle tails out there right now, but a 2/0 doesn't give you enough room. I feel like from that gap to really drive the hook home. You can skin hook them still like through the top of their mouth, but that 3/0 really allows you to actually bring the hook through the top of the lip like you really want, where they're not going to get off. I'm a big fan of a 3/0 too. I don't really like to go up to a 4/0 either when it's throwing single swimmers, unless I'm throwing like a 5 or 6 inch paddle tail.
Sure.
On a bigger head. But beyond that, I'm a huge 3/0 fan.
I agree, man. Go ahead, Andy.
I would say 3/0, 4/0, they're perfect size for like a 3.3 or even a 3.8 Kitech or a rage tail swimmer, which would be a 3.75 or a 4-inch spark shad. Like, you can't beat that hook size. And plus it has that gap to where you can actually get a really good hook into them. So on hook sizes, I have a golden eye here, which is my favorite jig head to use when I'm throwing it on casting gear, but I ordered it with the wrong size hooks. This is the 1/0 hook. It's way too small. You have to get
I have such a bad habit of that, dude.
Yeah.
I order, like, just to show you how much I use the 3/0. I bought these especially the 3/16 in, I think I bought 3 packs of them each in a 2/0 and 3/0 because I wasn't sure what size I wanted until I put the swim bait up to it. And I put it on there, and I'm like, I don't think I've even opened all the 2/0s because I'm so obsessed with the gap on the 3/0.
Yeah. The 3/0 gap is perfect. The one big thing, though, that I like when it comes to a single swim bait head is a vertical, like a 90-degree jig head eye. Okay. I don't want it 45 out in front. We'll talk about that later, but I only use the 45-degree angled on an A rig.
I am the same way. Like, especially like if you're creeping something on the bottom, which I'll get to in the head I like here in a second. Like when you can't feel bottom anymore, instead of opening that bail, I let it just tight line until I feel bottom contact, because it keeps that line perfect. So it makes that bait just slowly start creeping back towards bottom. And that could be an ambush versus vertical dropping straight down. It could be kind of a little tight lining type of deal, which I've gotten bit. I'm not saying that's like a crazy effective way, but like I have gotten bit doing that.
The other thing too that you'll notice, like if you have a 45-degree eye head, so this is one of the Strike King ones.
Yeah.
What this does is when you have your line, it causes the jig head and the swim bait to swim almost at this angle as it comes through the water. So the boot tail will drag and it'll make it like bowed. That's where if you have a vertical 90-degree, it'll almost lay flat as you reel through the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and with that, my favorite head to use, a little bit different than all your guys'. It's a Owner Ultrahead. It's more of a football style. Well, really, it is a football style.
That's a football head, man.
It is. I throw those too, Bailey. Don't worry.
Yeah, those are my absolute favorite head, especially just because a lot of the stuff I'm throwing it on, I'm creeping on bottom, like on rocks. But also, like this right here is a quarter, so very similar to your 3/16 you're talking about, Deacon.
Yep.
And I like throwing that on like a 3 3/4 to 3 3/4 inch swim baits. And that's like my favorite search bait. And it's also, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but like Andy can attest to it. It's also a big fish bait for me in the early spring in New York.
It really is. Yeah. I watched him catch it. How big was that largemouth? The 6.5?
It was 6.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
That day was incredible.
Yeah.
We had what, 28 pounds on an inland lake?
28.5. Yeah.
Wow.
And he was throwing a football jig, and I caught like more. He was catching numbers still, but all the fish I caught were over 5.
Wow.
So it was, but it's one where I'm counting rocks with it. You're not burning it. You're literally just reeling just fast enough where you feel 1 rock, 2 rock. You're like, you can literally feel how slow you're moving it. But I will also go down to an 1/8 ounce, like you mentioned, Deacon, when I'm up shallower, especially for largemouth, whether it's late fall or early spring, when they first make that move to, you can find like some of the remnant grass that's been for the year prior. And I like the football style even with the grass, because if you go by grass stems, that football shape, it'll roll the head and make that bait kind of do a little wobble. And I get it's almost kind of like that same idea with a trap, right? Where you go by grass, rip it by it, or any type of motion bouncing off of it when you get bites. It's kind of the same deal for me with that football head through grass, which
interesting.
Yeah.
So are you also with the football head? So that's something like I will drag a swim bait earlier in the year on the rocks, like you're saying, with the same kind of just regular round head. But I've always, I really like throwing a finesse football jig and doing that same kind of concept, right? And it's funny to me, right, that the swim bait will act that same way as a tube or a jig, and you can literally be like, and then whack, you get smoked doing that. I've wanted to incorporate more of that football head on the bottom, and I haven't. Now, do you, when you're saying through the grass and stuff, but are you also like, say, when you get your forward facing sonar, are you throwing that same head with the football head out in open water? If there's fish in 15 feet suspended or something, you're going to run it through them, or are you going to use more of a round bender or more of an Andy style head there?
If I am going, so I think if I'm just straight up going for suspended fish, I'm going to go to a ball head. But if I'm going to be incorporating multiple things, like working it on the bottom, and also go, like if I'm doing a multitude of different things, I'll just go to the football head, just being that it could be so versatile.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm specifically out chasing suspended fish and schoolers, I think there shouldn't be any reason why you won't throw a ball head. And I think you're fine throwing the football head, but it's more of like, why? I mean, you don't really need.
Yeah, you get kind of that perfect roll on a ball head, right? Like where that tail, everything's in line, kind of rolling. And it's probably very similar to a football head. I just, again, haven't done it much, where you get that head roll and the tail roll. And I think that's when you get a lot of natural stuff on a soft swim bait.
Yeah, and this is lead. This isn't tungsten.
Same with this.
These are the heads that we got molds from Do It Molds to make our own, which I'm extremely, extremely excited about.
We got the same hooks. I can't wait to plop those in there and make those.
And I think with the forward facing that I'm really curious to play around with, because I've seen some guys cover it, and Deacon, I'm sure you can attest to it. But like throwing a ball head, like here's another owner, Ultrahead, ball head. They throw me off with the Ultrahead football. Ultrahead, like it's too many words for me. But like I feel like the tungsten shows up better in return on forward facing.
Yep.
So like a tungsten ball head,
denser.
yeah, I feel like is going to be a better in terms of if I'm just using forward facing sonar. I feel like that tungsten ball head is going to be better than trying to use like a lead football head.
Now here's my question: if you powder coat it and harden it, well, then it show greater return on that forward facing as opposed to a standard non-painted lead.
So I don't know if it make a big difference.
I don't know
because
either.
it'd be hardening it up, so therefore it has a harder surface to connect to.
Denser.
Yeah, it'd be more dense.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it also just depends on the size of the swim bait you're throwing too.
True.
So here's something on the tungsten debate with jig heads. So I agree, and I haven't seen enough of a difference. The only time I've really noticed a difference is drop shotting, using a tungsten drop shot weight and dropping on fish on forward facing sonar on live scope. But something that I did after watching, this is why I'm obsessed, as you guys are, with watching Bassmaster Live or whatever live fishing is on. I was watching Jake Whitaker, how he finds every freaking marina. Have you noticed that? Everywhere he goes, he is a marina king, right?
There's always fish in marinas.
Always. And he finds, if there's 7 marinas on a lake, he's going to find the one that's the best. And like, he loves throwing a ball head on a little swim bait, skipping it into marina docks. And right, so like, again, with all of these, right, the real thin wire hooks, you have a great hookup ratio, and they're not obviously weedless in that sense, but you can get it around a lot of stuff for what it is. And you even see him get hung up a lot. But I was doing that at Grand this last year, and I was doing it with, this is a Kitech tungsten head, right? And I was just doing that with that same thought process in my forward facing sonar. I will go on record and say I didn't like it. And these heads specifically, I think the hook's great. It's a Gamu, I think, a Gammy hook as well. But whatever it is, this is a 16th ounce, by the way. But this tungsten, however it's not like, because they have to mold it because it's a jig head versus like a tungsten weight. I don't know what it is. Skipping this just on the water, right? Skipping it. I broke 2 of them. Broke the tungsten, because it's like kind of like a tungsten mold that I think they split down the middle, or it
is split down the middle, and then it's heated up and compressed on.
Yeah,
that's why a lot of those hooks break too, because they have to superheat the tungsten head to put it on a hook, and they can only pour tungsten products on certain hooks because they heat them to such a point that they make the hooks really brittle, where the tungsten connects with the hook shank.
Now that you're saying that, I've totally broken Kitech jig heads in the past.
Yeah, dude. So that's just, I mean, like, again, what's great about having Omnia, right, is we can like go in and talk about like specific products here and be completely honest with reviews. And one thing too that I didn't like about the Kitech, again, hook was great, and I liked everything about it except for the breaking of the head. And then also I use a little bit of super glue a lot of the time with these style jig heads on the front of that Kitech or whatever swim bait you're using. There's only just a little bit of a knock of an additional lip there. So I really found that even with super glue, especially skipping, these swim baits would slide right off.
Yeah, like the one I showed you, that Ultrahead, the football head. I love those ridges on that.
Yeah, those are
but also similar. So the Berkley Fusions one, I haven't had enough chance to play with these just yet to really get an honest opinion. But they have the same thing, and they have that little knock up there in the top.
Yeah,
it's like a little wire.
They got a wire in there.
Yeah, so something like that. But even like something as subtle. Well, here's a couple of them here, but like the Megabass one, just something super simple with that little ridge on top can be the difference maker. And like Damiki makes one that I think is pretty good too. It's that little keeper under on the bottom.
Yeah. I prefer, if I'm casting swim baits, that's why I like the GoldenEye, because it has the lead piece, but then it also has, so you can put, as I pull it out here, you can put the super glue, but it's on the sides that come out here, so it grabs there, and then it also,
oh yeah, it's got a lot of wires on it.
It grabs there, and then it also has a wire keeper here, so it has 3
Who makes
points.
GoldenEye?
Yeah, it's Outcast. It's Josh Douglas's head that he designed with Outcast.
That's what I thought it was. You kept saying GoldenEye, and I was like, who the hell?
Yeah, it's called a GoldenEye. And Omnia does sell these. But
I am still laughing how small that freaking hook is.
Yeah, I asked my buddy. I remember the story. I asked my buddy. He's like, "What size hook?" And I was like, "Which one do they have?" He's like, 1 eye. It's like perfect. That'll work. Not thinking about it because it was like 1 a.m. when he asked me if I needed anything. I was like, I got him in. I was like, well, I just got 6 packs and I can't use any of them.
Yeah,
I know that feeling all too well.
Damn it.
That would be interesting to experiment though. Like one of us takes the same head 3/0 versus that 1/0 just to see. We might not like miss any fish, but what difference in terms of where it's placed in the hookup ratio, like in terms of where located in the mouth it's hooked.
Yeah,
that would be kind of a cool little experiment and to kind of analyze that. But
yeah,
when it comes to, so that's kind of like our little favorite swim bait heads, our confidence, one that we throw all the time. But what are some other swim bait heads that you guys will incorporate? Maybe if you're fishing deeper, fishing bigger paddle tails, hollow bellies, all that kind of jazz. Do you guys have any other heads that you're confident with in terms of a swim bait?
The Dirty Jigs Matt Allen head. I don't know why I can never say Allen, but
talking about that one.
That one,
yes,
yeah.
That
look
one.
at all of us.
That jig head is filthy for getting deep because the line is out. The hook tie is out in front of it. Mm-hmm. So I found that allows you to fish it deeper and slower, and it actually keeps that bait parallel. But you can also burn it, and it stays parallel, and it won't blow out and rock and do all kinds of funky things.
It's got a nice keeper on it too.
Yeah, the swim bait stays pinned on that head.
Keeper.
I think I want to say that's a 4 or 5. That's gonna be a 5.
It's a 3/0.
Well, it depends.
That ain't no 3/0, son.
No, the quarter's a lot bigger, so I got them all. I actually,
so the 1/8 comes with a 3/0, and then 3/16 and a quarter comes with a 4/0.
And if I were, I mean, like, just as this is my perspective of this, like when we get to this, and Andy, I noticed on your jig head too, you had a decently thick wired hook, right? Like,
yep.
That
I throw all mine on big casting gear.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I would be chucking this on a casting rod. Yeah. Just I want that power and that backbone, probably like a medium heavy, like a lighter medium heavy, or maybe a medium, but I'm probably going to go to a casting rod when we're talking
7.2 to 7'5" medium action with 12-pound test, 10 to 12-pound test, and a 6.3 to 1 reel or 7.1. It's fun.
Yeah, that's probably something I forgot to incorporate when I was talking about that owner Ultrahead football head. See, I still hate that there's so many. Never mind. But they just
say owner football jig head.
Yeah,
owner football head. There you go.
That's the one. Yeah, I hate that. I throw a 7.6 medium fast spinning rod when I throw that thing.
Longer is better when it comes to swim bait fishing.
And I throw 10-pound braid and 8-pound fluoro.
10-pound braid on a casting rod?
No, on a spinning
rod.
Oh, sorry, you said spinning. I don't know.
I go straight fluoro.
Yeah,
all day.
I go same thing as Bailey, either 10 or 12-pound braid with a 8-pound leader.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice because you feel that thump, and for the most part, you do not have to set the hook. You're pretty much it's a lean and reel, kind of like a drop shot. You don't really have to do much. So and the hookup ratio is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like on
a
Saturday,
long rod, I like that. Yeah, and you can bomb it too.
Oh my god!
I mean, you can launch with a 7.5-foot spinning rod.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. SLX MGL 70 reel or the Crowdo MGL 70 reel and 7.4 on like a 7'5", 7'6" rod, medium action. You can cast just as far as a spinning rod, if not farther.
Yeah, so
I don't know, but I bet I bet you're close.
Oh, I think we've had this competition.
Here we go.
So, Deacon, remember when Andy said, I don't know if it was on air, but like said he's not a junkie or he's low key a junkie.
Tackle junkie you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, he's also a gear junkie too. But we're out on that lake that we caught 28.5 on same day. We're blasting them all day long, like literally sun up to sundown. I think Andy laughed more like a little kid, not from the fish, but like this MGL cast so far. This is insane. He's just like,
gosh.
Dude, I was throwing a Fritz side like
fish.
3/4 of my spool with a Fritz side.
Yeah.
Wow,
12-pound test. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going back to back, like every cast with fish, and it's like 4-pounder, 5-pounder, 3-pounder, and like every now and then there's a 6, and then it's just like we're just like we're laughing at getting fish, and I'm like, dude, this is so much fun, and like he's like, yeah, this reel casts really far.
28 pounds. He's worried about the reel.
Yeah, I was like, dude, what did you do?
Classic Andy. Come
like
on.
we're doing something here.
Oh no, dude, that day was just absolutely wild. It was so much fun.
That's awesome.
And it was like, what was it, like 70 degrees out because the day before it blew, and it was like bluebird skies, calm as can be. You would never expect to catch as many fish as we did. It was like the worst conditions to have the day we did. And it was just, I think we're the only ones out there catching them.
We were the only boat out there, and it was just because like that was the first warming trend after a post front, so they just went nuts. They just went crazy. But kind of back to what we're talking about, that bigger head for those longer swim baits. That Alpha Angler Clutch is actually a sick rod for those.
I almost bought that rod for that reason.
Dude, highly recommend buying that rod. I'm a huge fan. You can use it for they rate it as a 7.5 medium fast. That is not a medium fast.
It's like a medium heavy with a medium tip.
Yeah.
I actually really like that about their rods. I've got the Rebound, their cranking rod, and I love how I hate a really limber, just like parabolic cranking rod. Mm-hmm. And it's like a medium heavy moderate, and it is perfect for throwing a square bill. I mean, perfect. Because it's a little, I like having a little, it's still got flexibility on the tip end, but it's got a lot of backbone still.
Is that their chatterbait rod?
No, the chatterbait's the
chatterbound.
Yeah.
Oh, they literally call it the chatterbound?
Yeah. And then they have the Meg Rebound, which is the 7.6.
Like the heavy.
Deep.
Well, that's actually a medium heavy moderate as well. They're all medium heavies.
Okay.
But they're just like the length of the rod and the taper on them is just slightly different.
Yeah.
I've been reading into it a lot.
Yeah. Well, either way, that clutch is sick. Like with 150 size reel, like 20-pound fluoro. Like when you're reeling that thing and you get thumped, you can just reel and like give them all you got. Like because you're driving that thick gauge hook because that thing barely flexes, like barely.
That Mad Ellen head like is insane.
You are drilling them in the dome, and like it's because the rod can take it too. So that's it's a lot of fun. I caught like basically 12 pounds in 2 casts on the first school I found on that Bass Kayak Classic in Texas last year. On that, I was out in 20 foot on a ledge with that and like a 6-inch hollow belly. That is one of the most addicting bites ever. Is like when you don't feel much, you can feel a little bit of that hollow belly knocking, but all you feel is don't. And you're like, yep, I know what that is. And then you give them everything. It's so much fun.
Hold on for dear life.
There's something too with both of you guys talking about these 7.6 rods. I need to incorporate that more on these longer cast applications where you can have some of that parabolicness because I don't. And I think there's such an advantage because I've used it sparingly a couple times, but like on those long rods, it is so fun to lean into a fish because that whole rod just flexes. And
you can turn like your entire body on a sweep set and the rod just keeps going. And you're like, he's so pinned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. It's a completely different conversation and one that I'd really like to do in the future. But the three of us have talked about this on our group chat, like trying to throw like a 7.6 or a 7.11 for traps. Like, because everyone talks about a 7 to a 7.2. Like everyone talks about that for a trap. Like,
yeah,
I caught a few on a trap, and yeah, I was throwing a 7.6 medium heavy moderate on Toledo Bend with the trap, and I caught a few. I really liked that longer rod for it. I really did. I would love to try that 7.11 that the what's his face was talking about down in
Dickie Newberry.
Yes.
Hammer with a trap. One more money in boats on a trap than probably anyone.
Well, the one thing too is you're able to cast it twice as far with that 7'11". And if you're yo-yoing it, like you're sitting it on the bottom, you're just ripping it out of the grass, you don't have to move the rod nearly as far. So you're not really putting as much fatigue on your body. And when they eat it on that long distance, you can really get into them. Like hit them on that sweep 3/4 hook set and just keep walking backwards. That rod's just going to keep loading. And it's a treble hook, so they're not going to come off.
Yeah. Well, back to jig heads.
Yeah, no, this is good.
So for swim bait heads, is there anything else that you guys incorporate in terms of jig head? We covered shallow, kind of finessey, and then we covered some bigger stuff. But is there any other maybe miscellaneous in terms of like a small paddle tail that we should?
Yeah, so I mean, well, one thing I did want to say is you guys were talking about heavier jig heads. So the Matt Allens, this is my first year using those Matt Allens. I've never used them. I've just heard such good things about them, so I bought some. And I do like the line tie there. And what I've heard a lot with this line tie being on the bottom like that is you guys are talking about dragging on the bottom, but because it's on the front versus being on that 90, like we're talking about ball heads, I've heard that it gets through stuff better on the bottom actually, because it's pulling with the whole thing rather than kind of getting stuck and, with like having that ball head get stuck in places. Yeah. So I don't know. I've never messed with that, but something that I heard.
I believe it. Yeah. I've never thrown it through anything, so I can't really speak to that.
It's my favorite swim bait head to throw when I am casting out a swim bait for smallies on the river by my house in like 8 foot of water, and I'm fishing 4 to 6 foot down, and I'm like aggressively fishing a swim bait.
Yeah,
because you don't even have to set the hook with it because they eat it so hard. You just slightly reel and sweep, and they're pinned with that dang thing. Yeah,
dang. Yeah. But another head, if we're talking deeper, bigger kitex, like you were saying,
Striking Squadron.
Yeah, absolutely that one. I like those a lot. I like those on A-rigs as well. And then a new one.
Another thing I got Bailey to buy last year for A-rigs.
Nice.
I like how we think the same, Deacon. This is
I know it, man. We're dialed in. Another one, guys, that I really like. And this one was inspired by another tournament, Josh Douglas, in that Open when it was live on Rayburn. He was using a bigger head than this, and I've got a couple bigger ones, but with a weed guard on it through brush piles and stuff. But I don't know if he was using that head, but this is a Dobbins. And they make them without the weed guard too, and I've got some of those too for A-rigging and bigger swim baits.
That's a meaty hook.
Yeah, it's a sweet meaty hook, and also if you look at that, it's a real meaty lead piece there to stop your swimming from coming off, but it also has it going that way too. So it has it going both ways.
Oh, nice! I see it.
I haven't really used super glue on these heads.
It's got 4 points of contact.
Exactly. So once that swim bait's on there, like it's on there. So that was a really good design having it come out on that side. So that's again a Dobbins swim bait head.
I like that. I want to throw that in grass instead of like a swim jig with the.
I could see if you take like a Meg Draft freestyle and cut like that first inch of it and get the eyes off and thread that on. That could be a big fish bait. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I think another one to talk about, and Deacon's got a good concept of it, but I don't have any of the Megabass on hand. But I have just the normal jig heads. But most people know what I'm talking about. Is
I got one here. Hold up.
Perfect. You got one?
Okashira heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I love those. I almost prefer to throw those over a spy bait personally.
Really?
Yeah.
See, and I've heard that. Honestly, I'll be the first to admit that I haven't done it enough. I've got a couple of them. So there it is there, right?
They are good.
They're dirty.
And I legitimately asked a hammer here that fishes some very pressured waters for some big smallmouth in Colorado terms, like 5 and 6 pounders. But he said that he truly does feel he gets more bites with that head than with a standard jig head.
It just gives it a little bit more flash.
Yeah. Well, and it's a completely different feel. Some people even say it might be the squeak, which if that might be the decibel range of that bass, that bass, because a bass can only hear, like when you're talking audio, a bass can only hear a small decibel range. Everything else is more of what they can feel through their lateral line. So like it kind of gives off that spy bait-esque, with that prop. And you know what?
Wobble.
Yeah. I mean, between that or a spy bait, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But that head, I mean, it is. I almost prefer throwing it over just single swimmers anymore, especially when you're on a pressured fishery. Like when I was on Toledo Bend and the last day of practice, I'd caught fish on that head, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just me because I didn't see anyone catching fish around me, and I was in a community hole. I didn't see anyone catching anything. I purposely went behind people with that Okashira head and caught fish behind boats that didn't catch anything. And so like there is something to that little blade, and that might be leaking some juice out. I know there's a few people that I'm friends with that might say, "Hey, screw you, man. You shouldn't have talked about that." But like,
have you ever looked at that blade closely? You know, both blades on it are two entirely different sizes, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And one is bent, and that causes it to pitch and yaw as it comes through the water. So it gives an entirely new shimmy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I will say, if that really speaks for a pressured fishery, when I was on Chickamauga last year with Caleb, a good buddy of ours who runs Bass Quest, he is he's a tinkerer, like the epitome of a tinkerer, and he throws that behind people on community holes in one of the most pressured lakes in the entire country, and he smashes them on it.
It's legit.
We went behind same bank behind 3 boats that were in front of us, like within visual eyesight. And he caught off a same log that a guy caught, like skipped a jig to literally 5 minutes before, caught an 8.5 pounder on that Okashira head. I am a firm believer in that.
That's impressive.
I wish they made it in bigger size.
I was just going to say, is it only in an 1/8 and a 16th, right? Because that's all I have it in is an 1/8.
I think 1/8, 3/16.
Okay.
Let me check because I believe they're on Omnia. So hold on, give me a second.
Can you can you imagine that, like a bigger prop on, like, say, a 1/2 ounce and like a 4-inch paddle tail, like for deep fish?
Big fish. Yeah.
Like,
especially on a fishery like Chickamauga or somewhere where there's a big shad population, like we're talking, there's those 4 to 8 inch shad. Like
on ledges, dude. I mean, come on.
1/8 and a 16th. That's the only 2 sizes. I only throw the 1/8.
So I do too. Yeah, that's the only one I have actually.
I think another thing that might be a leak in some juice. I don't have any on me. They're in the garage. I should have brought them out. But like that, people will only seem to fish or throw on ledges, especially in the South, is scroungers. Scroungers are sleepers, man.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Smallies love them.
It's a small chatterbait, man. I mean, it's a finesse chatterbait, I should say, because it has that same kind of and no.
Screw the stealth blade. That's what. Throw a scrounger.
It's the stealth bait's just a scrounger.
The stealth blade is a fancy scrounger. Is basically what they're getting at.
Dude, you know what I just thought of? I'm like, crap. I wonder if with the people listening to audio on this, we should have did like, hey, you might want to listen to or watch this one on YouTube tonight because we're gonna show Jigheads to the front.
Yeah, we are showing things to the camera.
Yeah.
48 minutes in, we apologize.
Yeah.
We are now giving you the disclaimer. So now, if you're at this point, if you don't mind skipping over to YouTube and starting over, we would greatly appreciate that.
We strategically didn't tell you until 50 minutes in. So you watched on the podcast or you listened on the podcast and you clicked on the YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Hashtag engagement.
Please like and subscribe everywhere. Thank you. Thanks.
So now how about you guys when it comes to this jig head here? Are you guys big believers in an underspin?
Oh, yes.
Honestly, I don't. I'm not saying I'm not a believer and I'm not a doubter. I don't have the confidence in it yet.
I haven't found one that I really, really like. This is the Santone one that Zaldane likes. I personally am not a fan of it.
Is it Santone or Santoni?
Santone.
No, it's Santone. I just know it's close Texas, and yeah, it's Santone.
And here's the reason why I'm not a fan of it. I had some, I can't remember the name of them, but I broke them all off on rock ledges, dragging them on the bottom. But
why are you dragging that on the bottom?
Well, you know,
look at it. Look at that. How are you going to drag that on the bottom when it's got this?
Hold on.
Because I'm dragging it and hopping it, and that blade gives it just a little bit more action.
Is that not a flat-bottomed head?
No, that one could work. That one could work better.
It's the same thing here.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it looks like a stand-up head.
All I was thinking was that it would. So this one, look at this one. This is like one of those southern ledge hammer places.
Yeah.
I don't even know who makes this hook, but it is nasty and it is awesome. But
looks like a Buckeye. Does the blade say the name?
That's the one it is. It's
No,
Buckeye. I got to get more of them. Buckeye is the best underspin one I've found to this point.
Okay. Well, this thing's sweet, and it's got. But I was thinking, Andy, if you're dragging this on the bottom, I would think it would go like this, and then it'd go sideways. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think that it would maybe stand up, but maybe I guess if you're moving it enough, it would kind of.
You move it just to a point to where you want it almost up like this, and the blade's just slightly fluttering behind it. It's more of a deflection thing.
Yeah.
So like I'll hop it and give it a little bit more action, but there's been days when the water gets below like 45 degrees and they won't eat anything. You bust out this guy and you'll start getting bites.
Yeah.
And it was the Buckeye one. So thank you, Bailey, for that I really enjoyed. They make a 2-bladed one. That's the juice. I stopped. Last spring I was looking for underspins and I was like, oh, these ones are cool, but the lead part here in the jig head is too thick. So if you slide a Kitech or a Rage swimmer, it starts splitting the head of the swim.
Yeah, it makes a big hole.
Yep.
Like
so it doesn't hold a swim bait very well, and it's very unfortunate because that hook on there is bad. Like it's super good.
You guys know the rap song where he goes, "That's the Bruce." Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Green fish.
Yeah, that's one I haven't used, but that's what we were talking about with the heavier Okashira heads. Sorry, Bailey, I have not heard that song.
No, just me thinking about random shit.
there's Bailey. Yeah,
Bailey's gone.
There's like a rap song where they're like, some guy goes, "That's the Bruce," like in a point aside, but like I don't know. Somebody said that's the juice. That song came in my head, and I was like, you should totally manipulate that rap song to "That's the juice." All right, yeah, we're gonna move on from that. Okay.
Oh no, I gotta.
What are you doing? Are you okay?
He's stuck in the rug.
Carpet.
It looked like you had like a neck tweak and you like couldn't move.
Hey guys, someone call the ambulance, please.
Or is it the ambulance? The ambulance.
Okay. All right. So one other juice of a thing, and I haven't tried it with forward facing sonar, but I've done it enough without that I think it'd even be better. And this is one of those, Bailey, like you're talking about giving away some juice that I don't really want to talk about, but taking an underspin head, especially one with this like bigger hook, putting a fluke on the back of it, and through suspended fish, cranking your reel and stopping, and cranking your reel and stopping, almost like how you see guys fish hair jigs on like the Tennessee River chain. And dude, like that thing just is going, and it just falls. And like that fluke action of it falling in the blade, like smallies crush that thing when they're schooled up.
You just kill it, and all you feel is dong, 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 like if I'm trying to hit it. Yeah. You just
reel and stop, and then you go boom and crack one.
Fun.
I love that.
Smallies can be the dumbest fish in the world when they're in a feeding mood, but if they don't want to eat, they could be the most pain in the butt fish there is.
I agree.
They're the Andy of fish. that face.
I was like,
"That's right, I got a button too, buddy."
Damn it!
Punishing Bailey, but no, it was just Andy doing it.
I got the reverse Uno.
You got canceled. Canceled from your own show, buddy.
I know. Awesome. Bastards. I give them the power of the button, and they abuse it.
What do you mean?
All right. Beyond swim baits, I mean, that pretty much, I think, covers it. I can't think of any other. I mean, I guess an A-rig qualifies.
Because there's, when it comes to, if you look here, the only thing I throw on A-rigs are ball heads. But here's why. Okay. I don't know if you can see it up close, but I use a 45 degree, but I want the eye to be, what would that be then? Horizontal, going this way across the jig head as opposed to vertical.
So it swings on that arm.
So it swings a little bit better.
That's interesting.
So like, here's my ball head for the A-rig, right?
I have never seen a ball head that has a line tie like that.
Yeah.
Is that a gammy?
On here?
Yeah,
it's actually a VMC, but it's not bad.
I like some of VMC stuff a lot.
This is the only VMC hook that I actually like, but for an A-rig, I found with the ball head this way, they don't get tangled up as much.
I don't doubt that.
So like I feel like it comes through the water better when it's on the swivel, or if you take the swivels off and you replace it with split rings. It functions better on the A-rig that way. Just my personal opinion. But yeah.
Interesting.
Like I won't throw this eye on normal casting setup. I only use it for A-rigs.
Interesting. I like that though. That's thinking through some stuff that is above my head.
It's so personal preference.
Yeah. A-rig, I throw a ball head. I used to throw, I should say, a ball head more often than I do now. Probably my number one A-rig head is a Strike King Squadron head. It's got a meaty hook.
If I had to not use the ball head, that's what I use in a tournament.
Yeah, because
but I use the junior.
Here's the thing. I learned a lesson. Actually, getting this. No, it's the middle one there. But second place TBF would have qualified me at a semi-national. Would have qualified me for the national TBF as well as the BFL All-American. And I missed out, and I broke off a fish on an A-rig, and it was using those thin wire gammies that we were just talking about, which are great. The trick was I was using a heavy rod, and I was having some fish eat the A-rig at the boat. And I mean at the boat. And when you're at that with that heavy of a rod and you crack one, even I was trying to be light on it, can't do that with that thin of a hook. And that's why I've gone away from them. But the reason I was doing that is I was using I like throwing real small A-rigs. So like 2.75s, 3.3 inch swim baits. So again, the Squadron, but what I just found at Strike King came out with, and I am pumped about it.
The baby one?
The babies, dude.
Yeah. That's
look at those. Like it's still a thick hook to where I'm not afraid to crack a fish on a heavy rod and have that A-rig and not worry about things. But that's like a 1 or a 2-aught. It's probably a 2-aught, but it's short.
Fun fishing and current, but the ultimate tournament jig head is that one.
Yeah.
Even though I wish the eye was different, but that's incredible.
Andy and I were fishing a tournament. Was it August? And
September on Lake Ontario on my end.
Yeah, and we were losing a bunch of fish. There's we hit a window. We were catching every fish on those ball heads, but we're hitting a window. We were starting to lose every fish. Oof. We lost 10 to 11 fish back to back to back. And Andy made a switch to the Squadrons, and he started pinning every single one. So I was like, "Give me some damn heads."
And then a great head.
Yeah, but.
Especially on the 3.3 and the 2.75 kayak or Rage Minnow or whatever
Rage swimmers,
Rage swimmer. Whatever your preference is on that size bait, that baby Squadron head is unbeatable. No doubt. If you're using a thicker rod.
Yeah.
Beefier rod.
Do we have any other? Are we going to talk at all about kind of Damiki style heads tonight? Hey.
Yes.
There it is. That thing's sweet.
I know.
I think Bailey, after you told me about those, I went and bought some, and I don't know where they went. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Did you ship them to Bart?
Oh, God, don't even start.
Bart, I got you Damiki heads. What's a Damiki?
We're moping around up north. My gosh, dude.
I got 3 more heads that we can talk about. Okay. But Damiki, I'm pretty loyal to the OG Damiki head. Yeah.
It looks like it's got that balance too when I throw it back up on the screen.
Yeah.
So I've never used them, and I throw a Damiki rig a lot. Oh yeah, the VMC. I like the VMC a lot.
Moon eyes. You can't beat a moon eye. I actually have 2 different ones.
I thought you said you only liked one VMC hook. There's a second one.
I just like the moon eye. I don't like the hook on it.
I'm just a tip chunky.
I like the moon eyes.
And you know what? And I like the moon eye. Go ahead. Oh, that's another VMC, huh?
But it has the sickle hook on it.
Now we're up to 3.
No, I don't like the hook. I just like the jig head.
Okay. So go ahead.
I was going to say I had a Damiki rig tied on for Toledo.
Yeah.
The water when I launched on the first day was 45 degrees. And I was thinking, suspended, I'll try a Damiki. I was telling Andy the story. I'm on the ramp, and this guy's leaving, and he's like, you going crappie fishing? And I was just like, nope, going for bass. He goes, bass or crappie jig. And he like saw, like, nope, this is for bass. But the moon eyes, that's what the crappie guys use, at least what I was told.
Yeah.
I don't fish for crappie, so I don't know. Although I did get distracted with the school of crappie on Monday.
Dude,
I was catching some big ones.
And a problem with that.
Yeah.
Crappie are my new, just with live scope, have been my new passion. I'm not like kind of how Panger picked it up of just like being obsessed. It is so much fun. It's so you can see everything. Yeah. And like, for instance, I'm headed down actually to Pueblo this weekend. Half the lake's open, and I'll probably chase some crappie around for that. I want to make sure the boat's ready. I'm headed to Lake of the Ozarks next week, and I have never been on a body of water with more crappie as frozen. That was like, I mean, it was cold, and you could catch them at will, and it was a blast. Crappie.
Well, that's like some of the best times to catch them, right? Is that when they're in that
they're bunched up, and it was, dude, it was from 5 feet of water to 40 feet of water, and I'd just be like, "There's a school of them," and drop a spoon on them, drop a Damiki, drop anything,
and they'll go
swim bait. Like, oh, dude, it was like, need to bring a fillet knife this
when they're out in 40. Are they suspended, or like they are up high, or are they on the bottom?
They're always suspended most of the time. I've seen them on the bottom, but the vast majority of the time, dude, I mean, and this is what's so cool about live scope, right? And talking about forward facing is I've learned so much about crappie and all species, but almost all the time they're suspended.
I really am excited for going after Lakers and the salmon with that forward facing. Dude, I think now that I have forward facing, like I'm like coming, I am like might get away from bass for a little bit, surprising as it is.
I really need to, especially here we've got some awesome lake trout fishing, because that is, you're dead on. Like it'd show up so well. Damiki, I have always used the VMC, Andy, the Moon Eye, but I have really liked this last year the Berkley
Halfhead.
And it's kind of like a Ned almost too on the head. It's
just a mushroom head.
Yeah. It's got a super great thin wire 3/0 hook. And I really like a thin wire Damikian, being on a spinning rod, being right below you, maybe in deep water. So that has been my go-to. And those hooks are sticky sharp. As of recently, another one that I just bought this year to try is the Tactical Bassin one. And we were talking.
Guppy head.
Yep. And we were talking about the 3/0 versus 1/0. One thing I am a little annoyed with on this is like, so on the Berkley, it's got a real thin wire hook that's still a 3/0. The 3/0 version in this hook is a little bit thicker gauge than the 1/0. And again, buying both just for no reason. But the 1/0 is got a real nice thin wire hook, but it's again a 1/0. I'd rather have a little bit more gap there.
Dig it.
Those are my Damikis.
Andy? Oh yeah, you covered your Damikis.
Yeah, it's just something I don't normally do.
So the one, I got 2 jig heads left. The one of them I've never thrown in my entire life, but I'm very curious to see if you guys are. But I'm gonna save that one for last. Okay. The next one is one that I've used up north for smallmouth that I found to be deadly, but learned on my trip to Florida. I was in the boat with Gary Klein, and I watched him catch like 25 Florida bass in the grass every single cast. When you couldn't catch them on a drop shot, you couldn't catch them on a swim bait, or you could catch them on an A-rig, but like this is the only thing they were eating. It's the wrong bait, but it is the Berkley Snapjig, and it is like a very intriguing bait. And this is the half ounce, so it's a bigger bait. I got a
swim bait on it.
It's a flatworm.
No. I'm saying he did when he was throwing a swim bait.
So here's what he had on there. I'm trying to give people a good look at the actual head. So I have a 4 1/4 inch flatworm on it. I actually don't like the flatworm on it. It's just the only one that was in my garage. I like the twitch tail minnow, but I learned there's a new bait that at least paired up with that jig head that is the juice, and it's the Lil General. It's literally.
I kept seeing
do nothing bait, super stupid turd looking thing, but like that no action lets that shape of that head. So like you could see how it has like
metal weight. Or is it plastic?
It's plastic, but it's just got like it's metallic color just so that when it. So I'll get to it in a second, but what those wings do, the less action of the trailer, the better, because it allows that head to rock. But what you do is it goes to the bottom and you lift up, just a quick lift, not like a snap like you do with a blade bait or a trap, just small lift, like super small. What it does is it rocks up, and then it slowly, the wings will let it flutter down, like almost kind of like a spoon. So the less action, yeah, but the less trailer you have, like less action on the trailer, the more action the head can do. And that's what's super cool about it.
I hope nobody in Buffalo is listening to this point in the podcast, because I think I know we're going to smash giant smallmouth on this spring Bailey.
What do you think I caught the 6.5 on New Year's Eve?
I believe it.
Dude, it is freaking, it's awesome. And it's
that's some juice, Bailey. That's juice there. Dude.
It is juice. It is juice. And I'm definitely bringing it up because we have Gary Klein coming on the show here soon. He's going to be on a live show, so you guys get that to look forward to. But this bait was originally designed for walleye. The Berkley guys designed it for walleye and smallmouth in the north. Well, Gary Klein, being one of the biggest tinkerers I've ever there's the pooch. He started using it in Texas and Florida and catching them. Like I saw it on I want to say it was the first lake they're at for the BPT. I can't remember the name. Darbone, maybe. They had I'm pretty sure he had it rigged up. Thought I saw it on his deck. The bait is so, I think it's because it's new and it's different. That subtle action, that's what kind of draws bass into it. But I think the fact that it's working in Florida when it's a cold front, that is a testament to how universal the bait could be.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You watch this bait blow up. Watch it. Like especially one because of how clunky it is, because of how much bigger those wings, dude. That'll show up on forward facing real nice. I saw it when I was on his active target. It shows up really nice.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. They're gonna sell out in Buffalo.
That's what I have you for, big guy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You're not wrong.
Like, Bailey, I need this.
Now
I'll take you fishing, but I need this.
Yeah, if I had $1 for how many messages I had since I got this job. But people like out of the woodwork, people you haven't talked to in like 4 years. Hey, dude, want to go fishing? You got flatworms? Yeah. So the last jig head I got, and like I said, I've never used this before. I've only been talked to about it. I'm very curious if you guys have used it. And that is the slider head.
Nope.
Slider. I've used something very similar to that, but what's the purpose behind the name?
Apparently it's supposed to have like a completely different fall, like almost like a twirl, if I understand that correctly. We'll have to get somebody on here to actually dive into it. But
like
it's
fluke style bait.
I think it's just like a straight tail worm, like a Zoom trick worm.
Yeah, I had some of those as a kid. That like style head where before kind of like I really knew Texas rigging or anything. There was like jig heads that were like that had that kind of point, and I would throw flukes on it and catch a lot of fish. But
I know they're horrible like hooks, like the hookup ratio.
The worst.
Really?
Like I've pulled them out and I'm like, oh, who would ever buy this? It's dull as crap. Like,
well, no, I think it's literally not just that, but like in terms of
because there's a weight on a EWG hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the eye, and in terms of trying to with your line, getting that bait or that hook driven into. I think if you just accelerate or pushed out the gap a little bit farther, it'd be okay. But then that worm would be at a different angle where it wouldn't be as
Well, think about with where that is, Bailey. When you're pulling that weight, because the weight's not centered, it's gonna pull like this. So you're almost like pulling that hook out of the fish's mouth. By the time that hook catches the mouth, it's already coming out like that.
Yeah, I bet it gets a lot of like lip hooks straight up in the front.
That's what our buddy Steve Mooey in Florida throws it every now and then. He told me, he's like, yeah, when you get bit, he's like, count to 5.
Let him swallow it.
But I figured I'd throw it out there to see if anyone has used it, and if somebody's watching it and you use a slider head, holler at your boy, because I'm very curious. Yeah. But boys, that is all I got. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna dive into some more stuff later on. We'll probably have another Ned Rig episode coming up here soon. But I mean, swim baits are. I know we dived into a multitude of things, but predominantly we talked about swim baits, and like I said, it's my most fun, preferred way to catch them.
It's a bite getter, dude. It just gets bites too.
It's a fun bite. It's not just doom. It's doom. Like a lot of times they're ripping the rod out of your hand if they're really aggressive. I don't think I've ever had like a really subtle bite on a swim bait.
No.
It's either the rod gets ripped out of your hand or you get 10 foot of slack that you have to reel as fast as you can and then hit them.
Yeah, it's either they're pushing on it and they're knocking and it's all you have to catch up to them, or it's knock and your rod's already loading. Like they're just like biting it and swimming away.
Yeah, it's too much fun. Sign me up any day that somebody says there's a swim bait bite going on.
Yeah, which was crazy. So day one, give people some prelude. There was a cold front coming in day one on Toledo Bend. And for folks know, the south and cold fronts don't mix well.
Mm-hmm.
After you could feel that front hit, like you could just feel it in the air. And they started short striking a bunch of stuff. Through that Okashira head, I lost 4 fish back to back, bumping it, and they'd eat it, set the hook, and it'd come off. When you're losing them on that, that's bad.
Yeah, dude. I've had fish bump. I don't know. You guys are saying you've had such good. Maybe it's because you're up north, but I've had a lot of fish bump a swim bait, and I hate that when they're just like, and you can't get a hook in them because I've had that.
Just pushing it.
Yeah. Or they'll just have the tail, and you'll set the hook, and you lose your tail on your kayak or something.
Well, I mean, I've had definitely, them bump it before, but if I throw back, usually they'll get it. What I noticed is I get bumped in practice too by crappie, and you could tell if you kept getting bumped and not them actually eating it, that it's usually crappie.
Yeah, for sure.
What I've noticed too in the north, your hardest bites, and you'll miss every single one of them, is a walleye
or a perch. I've caught actually really big jack perch on swim baits.
They will slaughter your swim bait, and you'll miss the hook set, and you're like, dude, what the hell? Like I felt like a giant, and then you finally make the same cast, catch it, and you're like, oh, it's a walleye, and it's like every time it's always a walleye.
And it's crazy because your line will jump like 5 foot and then go straight back to taut, and they just won't be there.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? Like, I just got wrecked.
Yeah, it's like thump, slack line, set the hook, gone. And you're just like, that makes no sense. Like,
don't get it.
Cracking it.
Like you pulled and then slack line me, and then you were in like a matter of a half a second, just like stupid walleye,
stupid fish. Yeah. Well, boys, I think we're gonna wrap up here. But do you guys have anything for the folks before we sign off?
Andy, anything?
Nah, I am good.
Yeah, I guess I got a couple things. One, if you guys have not taken advantage of the 15% on Omnia, massive,
good plug.
And this is a shameless plug, but it's also not a shameless plug because they are ridiculously fast on their standard shipping. And they've got a lot of great stuff, and 15% off almost everything makes it it's your online tackle retailer. So that for sure. And then this upcoming week on Business from the Bass Boat, next Monday, we have an awesome show with Justin Russell of Russell Marine Products, RMP. It's come out with a lot of really cool stuff in the industry and electronics and everything. Just a cool story, a true Business from the Bass Boat dive into how he started that business and cool tournament background and everything else. So that, and then lastly, I'm headed to Lake of the Ozarks to fish the Toyota Series the end of next week, hopefully, if I can get out of here through the snow, and I will be filming all of that. So, yeah.
Quick little quote from one of my clients that texts me. He goes, Omnia is the expletive word. It's got expletive everything, dude. Literally everything.
It's wicked. It's awesome.
And I'll put out a story there too that like keeping things honest, and one that our freaking FedEx, USPS, they all suck right now.
It comes super quick.
Well, it comes super quick, but like things do happen, and this like their customer service is what really was a testament here. Mm-hmm. I tried to order 3 days before I left for Toledo. I ordered, and I got a text from Andy, bait junkie that he is on top of everything. He goes, "Hey, there's albino 6-inch mag drafts on Omnia. So I go and like 5 minutes later, I order 6 of them, and I get an email the next day that, hey, your order is like, because I paid for it, like faster shipping. Hey, your order is stuck somewhere in Minnesota.
Yeah, they had a bad ice storm.
Yeah, but basically they're like, we really apologize for the inconvenience, and they completely refunded all the shipping and everything without me asking, making a big deal of it. They came to me about the shipping versus it showing up late and me like, hey, where's it at? They were completely like, they were on the ball, on the game, and that speaks volumes to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But guys, I mean, on top of that too, Deacon, folks, all of our discount codes are in all the show descriptions. So you guys can take advantage of that from our awesome partners because they're trying to help give you guys an upper edge, save some money on some tackle and some other products. So kind of a cool deal that we like to bring more of and hopefully keep bringing more back to the table for you guys. Other than that, I think we're going to see how the Harris chain unfolds for the Elite Series.
Excited, dude.
Bold prediction, as everybody's listening to this, I think the big girls are going to pull up on beds tomorrow. Well, today.
Full moon.
Today. So hopefully our prediction as of 24 hours from now is in that correct, saying, yeah, if they pulled up. And hopefully Chris Johnson finds them because he's hurting my fantasy team.
or Derek Hudnall, who I think is in like last place, which is very like uncharacteristic of him because he usually excels in big fish places.
He does.
And he made a post that he made a few critical errors, so I'm wondering if he lost a couple big bites today.
Nobody lost as many as Scott Martin.
Oh, let's not talk about that debacle on live. That poor guy.
Yeah. It was talked about enough on Bass Live. But hey, one thing about losing fish, I could not believe I just love his mentality, and I have him in fantasies same with 50% of the people, but John Cox. I could not believe Zona talking to John Cox after the St. John's. He said, this was live too. He said this today. He said that John Cox was like, he called him about after the tournament or something. And he was like, oh no, it wasn't a lack of the fish being there. I lost some absolute giants on the final day at the St. John's fishing betters, the same like 30 pounds he had the day before. Like he apparently lost some megas that could have completely changed that tournament. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Ouch.
I would have, if John Cox is saying megas, if he's using the term megas and I was in his shoes losing a fish of that caliber, I would have found the nearest gator and just said, end me.
Bailey's end.
He said it so nonchalant too. Like it was just like, oh my gosh, that tournament could have been completely different. That's crazy.
Well, here's the deal. He's from Florida and he knows what can happen. And he's probably gone through that numerous times. Spawning fish, they never get it good.
No, and it's right next to the boat.
Yeah.
And they're big. Like when we're talking these ones, like, dude, you got to get on those fish like it's white on rise. Like you got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I might have John Cox on my fantasy team for like 3/4 of this season.
Insane.
It is a John Cox type. Yeah.
It is. It is a John Cox potential AOI season.
Like run away with it AOI season.
Yeah, if he can hold on to the last of the season. Because like it ends in the Mississippi, which could also be a John Cox tournament. Like
it's gonna be like a battle of John Cox, Buddy Gross, like circa FLW 2017.
Exactly.
So if he can survive St. Lawrence and the Oahe, and he'll be fine.
Yeah.
He'll do fine.
It could be interesting with this schedule because like it really doesn't play into that northern smallmouth type of like where you need to survive 3 tournaments type of deal.
I'm kind of excited about that, to be honest. It's just a mix up. I like them going up there. Don't get me wrong. And I think it's always a cool part, but I like the change up of going kind of more Midwest to end the season.
I honestly wish they would do Florida at like the end of the year. So like do a northern smallmouth swing. And then all of a sudden like August be like, yeah, we're finishing the season in Florida. Like 95 degrees sweltering and like 35-pound bags of giants getting weighed in. Like that would just be insane way to end the year.
It's crazy.
That'd be awesome. Well, I guess we'll find out. But
yeah, it'll probably never happen, but wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking. Yeah. Well, if folks are still listening to this, One, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Two, if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And you got the business from the bass boat to look forward to coming up Monday morning. If you're listening, feel free to give us a rating and review, and please do. Tell Deacon more Bart. We'll keep
I was
that
just gonna say hashtag more Bart
rolling.
or less Bart.
I was so confused, dude. I woke up to so many of these like Instagram messages and Facebooks, and I was like, "What is this more Bart thing?" And I was like, "All right, I got to listen to the show." And so I did, of course. And I'm like, "Oh man, gotta be Bart this year."
I missed one show. This is
literally.
It's funny. Either way, going to be a good show next week. We have Business from the Bass Boat Monday morning, and then Tuesday night live. We got Wes Logan coming on. Going to prelude the Classic a little bit. Talk with him about how his season's starting and his fishing his first ever Bassmaster Classic. And then we have the I think next week is the Bassmaster Classic prelude show.
Yes, sir.
I think next Thursday night we'll be going live to do our fantasy fishing show for the Bassmaster Classic. Yep, I double checked just now. It'll be the Bassmaster Classic preview show live on the Serious Angler YouTube and Facebook page it's a week from tonight for us now recording, but it's a week next Thursday night. Yes, in 6 days. And that's about. I'll wrap it up there. But folks, we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you guys on Monday night.